Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Izzy Cinema Escape on YouTube. I'm your host Izzy. I hope everyone's remaining safe and healthy. Today's review is based off of one of my favorite Adam Sandler films of all time that initially came as a surprise to me when it was released in 2006. The film is called Click, starring Adam Sandler, Christopher Walken, Kate Beckinsale, David Hasselhoff, Henry Winkler, Sean Astin. Now, my initial recoil reaction of this particular film came from the fact that I was expecting more along the lines of the same Adam Sandler standard of fare when it came to his comedies, which was profane jokes, lewd comedy, etc., etc. It wasn't until a friend of mine watched the film herself, and then when I asked her what her opinion was regarding it, she simply said to me that it made her cry. Now, when I think about the aspect of crying, I was assuming that she meant it made her laugh so hard that she started crying, which does happen. Needless to say, she said no, it's very sad. Then that's when I said it's very sad. Because when I couldn't picture an Adam Sandler movie venturing into the realm of territory of being sad. That's when I decided to watch it for myself. And the film is basically about Michael Newman, who is this married middle class family who is a workaholic, and he is just stretched to the gills of wanting to move up in his position as far as his employment is concerned, and trying to juggle not only his deployment but his family life on top of all the stress that he's experiencing. And he's just constantly being overlooked in his current employment by his boss, who is played by David Hasselhoff, who, mind you, when you think of David Hasselhoff, obviously you think of Knight Rider, Baywatch, and Baywatch Nights, etc., etc. He happens upon this mysterious shop owner who has this universal remote control that is able to control every facet of his life. So anything that he wants, and which is played by Christopher Walken, anything that he doesn't want to experience, he's able to rewind, or he wants to experience again, he can rewind it, or he wants to fast forward, or he wants to pause, slow it down. Anything and everything that you could possibly imagine that this universal remote control is able to create, he uses it. And at first, he uses it to much amusement. And then that's where the standard Adam Sandler comedy comes into effect here, is where he's using the remote control for amusement purposes. He's not really fully malicious about it. It isn't until that he starts using it for his own selfish gain, if you will, that the film actually starts to veer more into a realistic emotional territory, which came as an immense surprise to me. Now, as I mentioned before, I love Adam Sandler. I think Adam Sandler is such a wonderfully talented actor, comedian. I've watched Adam Sandler for, since Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Waterboy, Big Daddy, Bulletproof, you name it. And even when he was on Saturday Night Live and listened to some of his stand-up routines, he is just one of the greatest comedic geniuses of all time, in my opinion. So when I began to realize that this film was fully more into showing Adam Sandler's acting abilities, that's what came as a surprise to me. I was not expecting Adam Sandler to have I was not expecting Click to really fully give you that sense of a strong emotional connection where it hits you with the very fabric of your soul and heart. And that's what I really loved about it. I don't necessarily believe that a film like Click would be necessarily successful today, because when you think about it, 14 years later, it's really hard to believe it's been 14 years since Click came out. It really is a product of its time in actuality. But the performances overall with Adam Sandler, Kate Beckinsale, they both have immense obvious chemistry with one another, and they play immensely well off one another. They have these wonderful zinging moments, and as time continually fast forward due to him, using remote control for his own, just because there's certain things that he didn't want to experience, that he felt that just by abusing it, there wasn't going to be any consequences. Unfortunately for him, there became some realistic consequences for his actions. And the fact that there's a lot of wonderful comedic chemistry between him and Henry Winkler too, and of course you can never go wrong with the performance of Christopher Walken either. Christopher Walken would play just about anything, and he makes it that much more fun as a mysterious basement shop owner. But what really surprised me overall, aside from the obvious emotional element of this film, that you could view it as a comedy drama, if you will, one of the most important and heart-wrenching scenes of the film is, there's a spoiler here, so this was something that I discussed with a friend of mine not too long ago when it came to, we were discussing Adam Sandler films, and he was talking about Uncut Gems, and I still haven't gotten around to Uncut Gems yet. But we were talking about how Click was, for me and for him, that Click was one of the more underrated Adam Sandler comedy dramas, where you got to see that Adam Sandler can actually act when he wants to. And he felt that the character of Michael Newman wasn't all that likable, as he was using the remote control to simply fast forward through his family life, which he felt that he couldn't necessarily have any sympathy for him as a character. And that's where I slightly disagree with him. I do understand where he's coming from in that regard. But when I think of him abusing the remote control, he wasn't doing it to be malicious, I don't believe. He was simply doing it because he felt that there, as I mentioned, that there would be no consequences to his actions. So there was one scene in particular where he fast forwards so much. And again, it's a spoiler, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit. I'm going to give you guys I'm going to pause for a little bit and let you guys step away. And for those who have watched the film, you probably know which territory I'm going in. There's a scene where he's fast forward so much through his life that he has become estranged and ignorant of his family, of his father. And he has this one last scene because he didn't know that his father had passed away, because he has fast forward through so much of his life. He goes back to the very last conversation that he had with his father, and it's just really heart-wrenching. It's that wonderful, emotional, connective moment where this is where you get angry at the character of Michael. You don't necessarily hate him, but you get angry at him because you see that he needs to pay attention. He's not paying attention to a word that his father's saying, that when he snaps at him, that is the very moment where you realize that was the very last moment, that one shared moment that he had with his father that ended on such a sour note that he cannot go back and take and eliminate that specific moment. Needless to say, that was one of the most heart-wrenching moments. That's what came as a surprise to me. I'll never forget when that scene came up, and it's just, I was so emotionally invested and drained at the same time. And then the emotional drainage doesn't necessarily cease there. It continues on and on and on until the very end of the film. As I mentioned, it just really connects you. It connects you with that very special, it's that special sense of where comedy and drama are blended very perfectly well together. And that's what made Click such a monumental and important film for me. And quite simply, Adam Sandler's most underrated work. I mean, you have Spanglish, you have Punch Drunk Love, you have Big Daddy, which did have, some emotional dramatic elements to it. But Click is a territory in and of itself, from my perspective. Aside from the obvious message within the confines of the film, there's wonderful music. There's a lot of interesting Easter eggs here and there. Very fun moments. Very, very hysterical comedic moments within the confines of the film. All the cast that is involved does an amazing job, especially Sean Astin. Sean Astin is the underrated highlight for me personally, because he plays such an out of touch douche so immensely well that it's quite staggering that he hasn't won an Academy Award for his, because he is truly a remarkably talented actor as well. Kate Beckinsale does an amazing job as Michael's wife. Just Click overall is such an amazing underrated film that I do believe that it doesn't necessarily receive the credit that it deserves for being something that was completely different from what we expected from Adam Sandler. The music is great, the acting is great, the message is wonderful and emotional, and just overall, it's a fun film. It's a fun, entertaining, emotional film that really provides you with that strong emotional punch within the very fabric of your soul and heart. At the end of the day, I have to give Click a 2 thumbs up, a 5 out of 5. Completely unexpected for me when it was released in 2006. Still watch it from time to time, and no matter how many times I've watched it, it still hits me in the same way that it did the very first time that I watched it. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Let me know what you thought about the film if you have watched it, and if you haven't watched it, please do yourself a favor and give yourself a chance to check it out. Provide a like and provide a comment on my Facebook or even on my YouTube channel. You guys will be hearing from me again soon. I hope you guys continue to remain safe and healthy, and I will see you all again. Take care. Peace out.